Thank you everybody so much for coming to join us today. Today, we are going to be talking about advanced website content. And a little disclaimer before I go too much further for this webinar, and I will probably repeat this again as we start though, this is an advanced webinar. We have general expectations that you can navigate and use Club Runner pretty sufficiently. We're not going to be touching on the navigation aspects. It's really going to be more advanced concepts and advanced features in Club Runner that your club or organization can take advantage of. So I will be going slow and steady, but I'm not going to focus on how you get to things necessarily overtly. And some of the things we talk about are slightly outside of our scope of support. So while we're talking about them today, you wouldn't necessarily be able to send a support ticket in and get support for that specific thing. Now, I'll talk about that more when I get there, but I just wanted to get that disclaimer out of the way. So today, again, is the advanced website content. I am your host, Zach. Mickey D here is going to be our Q&A panelist for the end of the session. And speaking of that, there are two different ways to engage with everybody here today. So first and foremost, if you have any questions for me or you have questions for Mickey that you would like to see answered at some point, either during the webinar, so either as I'm presenting things or at the end of the session, we will have Q&A. Mickey will be doing those answers. So if you have any questions for us, please pop them into that Q&A box that you can see hopefully down at the bottom there. Additionally, there is a chat window. So if you want to ask questions to other people who are participating in the webinar today, or you guys want to have a little discussion amongst yourself, please absolutely feel free to use that. But if you want us to answer any specific questions about any of the things that we're covering, once again, please use that Q&A box. All right. I am going to go ahead and get us onto our next slide. So just once again, this webinar is intended for advanced audiences who are reasonably familiar with Club Runner navigation and, generally speaking, our website module. We will be touching on advanced features like custom CSS and page ownership. So that is kind of where we're headed, and just to kind of really reaffirm that. So specifically, we're going to be talking about dynamic carousels more in depth as a newer, more advanced and fancy feature for Club Runner. We're also going to be talking about page ownership as a concept and how it works within the Club Runner platform. We're going to be talking about how you can take third-party content, so like embedding content from social platforms. For example, let's say your club made a post on Facebook, or maybe you want to call attention to another organization or event that's going on, and it is on one of those social platforms, showing you guys how you can get that content, how you can get an embed link, and how you can add that directly into Club Runner. Item 3 is going to be adding third-party services. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at how you could add a custom analytics service. In this case, we're doing an example of Google Analytics, but it would really be relevant for any external third-party service. And we're going to touch on how you guys can incorporate those. And lastly, we're going to be doing an introduction to custom CSS. CSS is a really powerful tool that basically is used on every website that is created in the modern website world. Club Runner extensively uses CSS to style and make your club website, and well, really all of our customers' websites look the way they are. And you can hook into that and change things. So I'm really excited for that one too. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in here. Let's see, I'm going to get us into our account, and I'm going to get us ready to go. All right, so we are now in our Club Runner demo club. We're working on the Rotary Club Purple Metro, and the first thing I want to talk about today is our dynamic carousels. So if you're not familiar, dynamic carousels are one of our newer features. For a long time, we've had our classic or our simple carousel feature. What this does is it immediately brings through a photo album that you have already created, and it shows it on the website. Oh, just waiting. It's not letting me reload. Let me. There it goes. It had gone. But one of the small things about carousels, or one of the more advanced things that you have to deal with carousels, is that most carousels function best when you have a collection of photos that are specifically intended to be shown. And what I mean by that is that if you mix the different formats and sizes of your photos, for example, one's really tall, the next is really wide, it can create a really not fun experience for your end users, because as they're on the page will constantly be shifting and resizing itself, and it will be really jarring and disruptive to their experience. They also, the carousels, though, they do bring a lot of great color and style to your website, and they let you show off things in a lot more dynamic nature than would normally be possible. As I was mentioning, the hardest thing about a carousel is the prep work for it. Typically, you want to go and find photos that describe the thing that you want your slide to be about. For example, if you had an upcoming event and you wanted to have a big slide about that event and a link to go learn more information about that, you'd have to have that well-sized photo for your event. And once you have those slides up, you can link them. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into getting all of our slides set up, getting them linked to different parts of our website, and talking a little bit about the properties and features in the dynamic carousel. So now you guys can see we have created a whole bunch of dynamic carousels in the past, but we're going to go ahead and get started with a new one. So just on that note, dynamic carousels, typically we recommend adding them from the website Live Designer, which currently is labeled as the website Beta Designer, but the Live Designer is going to be the standard designer in the very near future. So definitely take a look at that if you haven't before. Most of our webinar will be remaining either in the Live Designer or in the newer parts of the system. So with all that said, let's get this carousel. So we've opened up the carousels group. These are available in the classic designer too, but again, I'd really recommend getting used to the Live Designer as soon as possible. Now, I am going to drag and drop it into a banner full width section. Just as a note, it says full width, and it's actually not too bad to see here. You can see that the orange lines show that this carousel, I mean, even the green drop here box shows that this is going to touch the absolute edges. If we didn't want it to expand to the full size of the viewer screen, instead of putting it in this full width section, we could drop it into the top section as well, or instead of rather. And this would mean that it's only as big as the document size of Club Runner, which is about 1200 pixels. So if you put it into a full width section, it is quite literally going to touch the sides of the monitor, and we'll see how that looks here in just a minute. So I've dropped the widget onto the page. Club Runner is getting the initial data set up for the widget so we can start working on it. And as soon as the page navigates here, we should be able to get started. So now on our newly created dynamic carousel, we have a handful of things that we should go through and do. So we have our carousel properties. This is kind of just for us. It's a good way for us to know exactly what this carousel is being used for and where. So this is our new homepage carousel widget. So I do want to get a little description in there. That way it's saved and we know exactly what it's for. Once that saves, we are going to jump in and upload some slides. And I'm going to do it both ways. So there are two ways to add slides. There is a bulk upload to do multiple slides, and we'll go ahead and do that. And then we'll come back and we'll do the individual slide upload as well. So here on the upload photos to dynamic carousel, I suspect that many of you have seen this interface before. If you've ever worked with any of our photo albums, this is that, or even our document upload, this is that same bulk upload. So clicking add files should hopefully open up my little folder here for our webinar demo. And you can see that I have 4 photos that are already pre-prepared. As a note, and I'll talk about this in a little bit more, these are all from Rotary, the My Rotary People of Action campaign that's available in the My Rotary Campaign Designer. And the really nice thing is these are really great photos to use, and they really help show off the different parts of Rotary that Rotary wants everyone pushing. So I'm going to grab 3 of these 4 photos, and then we'll upload this last one individually. Some quick notes, all of these photos hopefully are the same size, and I'm just double checking that. They're all 1600 pixels wide by 350 pixels tall. This is one of those items that I was talking about that is really important to get consistent. All of your photos for a single carousel should either be the exact same dimensions or the same aspect ratio. So by aspect ratio, for example, this last photo that I have my cursor over here, if the size on this photo was 3200 by 700, It would be exactly double the current size of the photo and would fit the aspect ratio that we're going for all of our photos. We could also have this size, so that would be about 800 by 175. And again, the photo would display consistently with all the other ones because its aspect ratio is the same as all the other photos. So that's just our really big tip for making one of the big tips we have for making great carousels. All the photos, ideally, same dimensions. If you can't get them all to be the same dimensions, at least get them all the same aspect ratio. You definitely need external software to edit your photos and prepare them that way. So just keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and get our 3 photos uploaded here. Now that all the 3 photos have been uploaded, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. This is going to bring us back to our dynamic carousel itself. So now we have 3 different slides. We can rearrange the slides by using the drag points. So clicking on this drag point area, I can drag any one of these up, down, and move their order. As soon as I drop it, it reorders them and the carousel will update on the homepage. Let's check out this individual slide upload. And as part of that, we'll check out what we can actually do when we create a slide. So when we're adding slides individually, every time we add a slide, we get this full details page to fill out. You can, anytime you edit any individual slide, this is more or less the same pop-up that you're going to get. So once you've uploaded a large amount of slides, you can come back in and label and add extra details one by one. So let's go ahead and grab one of our slides. We're going to click Load from Image Library. Now, I know we don't have this photo here yet, so I am going to upload it. I believe it was the transform photo. Go ahead and grab it. We have now added the transform logo here. So just going down, we can add a title to each of our slide. So let's call this transform. So we can see where this slide will, this information will show up. Let's also add a description and show that on the carousel as well. Join our club to help transform our community. Get some text in there, and we'll keep scrolling down here. We also have a carousel link setting. So each one of the slides that you add to the carousel can have a link. So let's have learn how to join our club. And for that link, we can choose any of the link types that are regularly available in Club Runner. I'm not going to go through this too much, but basically, if you're familiar with any of our link editing, these should be pretty much all the same options. I am going to choose custom URL just for the sake of this, and I'm going to put in just google.com. Let's make that at least secure. You can also use a relative link. So knowing that this carousel is on your homepage, you could link to your calendar or another page like that, just from the notes here. Lastly, we have a button style option. So anytime that we have a carousel link, it will show up on a button. We will leave the style as primary to see what that looks like. And in this very specific case, because we're sending them away to a third-party website, we are going to open that link in a new window. Generally speaking, this is my personal advice. If you ever can't decide on whether or not you need something to open in a new window or not, think about whether or not they're leaving your website. If they're going to leave to an external piece of content like a document or download file, having that open, or even just a third-party website, having that open up in a new link is really nice, because if they close the link, they're still on your website. But use caution when it's a whole bunch of items inside of your own website. As someone's navigating on your website, you wouldn't want them to open 10 or 15 new tabs just to navigate around. All right, let's go ahead and hit save. And we've got all 4 of our widgets, including our transform widget, and it has a description and extra detail. So let's click, drag, hold, and drop to the top of the list. That's going to be our first widget. Let's talk about some of the widget's properties itself. So by default, all of our widgets for carousels automatically leave their border and padding settings all empty. Additionally, we do not show the title by default. That's because we assume most of the time people want the nice big carousel to show, and they don't need a bunch of nitty details about what the carousel is. But for any reason, if you need that, you absolutely could. I'm just going to label this as 2022 homepage carousel. I will not show the title. Scrolling down, we have some additional settings here. We have a setting for how the animation will change as it goes through each one. I'll be honest with you, I don't think too many of these will come over very well just due to the nature of screen sharing, but I will try and choose one that looks a little bit different, and hopefully you guys will be able to see that. We have our carousel indicators. These are the slide indicators. So where on the slide do the indicators sit if you have them on at all? I am going to leave it as bottom because that's typically where I like it. Actually, let's do bottom right just for something different because that's usually not where I set them. We can set how much time each slide shows before switching to the next slide. I'm going to set it to 5 seconds. I like it to have a moment or two to sit on the page before it starts changing. We will leave our slide indicators on. So if we were to uncheck the slide indicators, the little bubbles or icons that show which slide we're on and which ones are coming next would not be available. The slide navigation arrows are arrows that sit on the left and right side of the slides, and they allow you to advance or fall back to each part of the carousel. That's very much a personal decision. Sometimes they look nice, sometimes they don't. I would suggest giving it trying both ways for yourself and see which one you like the most. We can show individual slide titles. So by default, we have that off. We'll turn it on just so we can see what it shows. We have an option to match photo sizes. And effectively what this does is it will figure out what the largest photo is in the list and make sure that as the carousel is displayed, it doesn't continuously rejigger the page. So you'd still really want your carousel to have all the same size photos, but this is a great option. If you have 1 or 2 photos that are just a little bit off, it'll be really sneaky. Most people won't be able to tell, but if you use really mismatched, again, a really tall photo, like, if you took a photo in from portrait mode and you turned it into, or landscape rather, and you turned it to portrait, that it would look really weird. So yeah, it's kind of like an emergency. I've got 1 or 2 photos that aren't quite perfect. That'll be nice. We also have a carousel zoom option. What this does is allows you to zoom into the carousel when you hover over it. I will go ahead and turn that on. So for our indicators, I am going to do dynamic bullets. These are the little slide indicators at the bottom and how they look. I won't change any of the custom colors though. So with all of our settings reviewed, let's go ahead and hit save. So now that we've added all of our slides, we've configured our properties and we're happy with it, we can return by hitting the go back button, which should send us back to the homepage itself. We can see our carousel here in the Live Designer. Let's go ahead and publish this so everyone on our website can see it. I've already got our homepage open up in a different tab here, so I'm going to click over to it. This I can actually see has our old carousel that we had at the beginning of the webinar before I removed it. If I refresh the page, we will now see our new carousel. So here you guys hopefully can see that I've got some text on the page. I have a button for our text on the page, and I have each of our individual slides, and we can advance them through the slide indicators. We can also advance them through the individual properties, though the icons and where they're sitting for this specific carousel don't look great. And I don't think the titles for most of these are also looking all that great in our very specific example. But hopefully you guys can see that zoom. When you zoom in, it kind of like when you put your cursor over it, it quite literally zooms right into it. So let's make a couple quick changes just to make our carousel look better. So first of all, for the navigation colors, I'm going to make that a nice gold bronze color. I guess that's more orange. Can I get a little bit more gold? There we go. A little bit closer to like gold or goldenrod. And I do want to turn off the slow shut slide title. So let's go ahead and hit save. Let's go ahead and publish, though I think I grabbed the wrong indicator option there. I'm going to reload this page real quick. So I got these in gold, which looks a little bit better, but I think the option I really wanted was the pagination color. So let's copy this, copy, paste, save. And we'll go ahead and refresh one more time real quick. And now we can see that they're in that gold color. So I really like how, you can see very quickly by changing all of those options, we have improved the whole carousel. I don't know if you guys are able to see the flip animation too much, but I hope that's really useful to understand all that there. All right, so now that we have talked about how we get a carousel on the page and some of the advanced features, and just to give one more shout out, all of these photos that we set up today all come from the People of Action campaign inside of myrotary.org. If your club is likes these concepts from Rotary, but wants to put your own color and spin on them, logging into My Rotary, you guys can upload your own pictures that go behind this text and create custom carousels just for your club. So for the Rotary clubs out there and even the districts, I would really recommend taking a look at that. It's a really great way to be 100% on brand, but also showing off your club and not just members of your club or non-members of your club in some cases. So moving right along, I am going to go out of the homepage designer here, and we are going to head into the custom page library. The custom page, so here we have a giant collection of custom pages. You can see a lot of them are draft, a lot of them are in various states, but right here up at the top, you can see that Bruce Fisher has been assigned as the owner of this page. So page ownership effectively allows you, your club or your district to allow someone limited access to the website designer to manage their own content. So if I was logged in as Bruce Fisher, I would be able to come and navigate to the Become a Member page and work on it, though this is the classic designer and I do need to be in the live designer. So I believe this is Bruce's page. Let's go ahead and open it up and take a look. So assuming I was Bruce, when I came into this page, once you've made someone that page owner, they'll have access to most of the system to rebuild this page. So if they don't like the images and the current images that are on the page, they don't like the content, they can click, drag, and rearrange and do most of the things that you would expect them to be able to do to the page. They can add new content into Club Runner. They can upload any images that they need. They can grab any of the images that are already in the image library, and they're able to add more content to the website. This is great when you want someone to be able to modify a couple pages, especially in the district's context, and you don't want them to have carte blanche access to the entire system. So for actually setting a page owner, once you're in the individual properties of a page, once you're in the actual live designer for any of the pages, we can switch over to the properties tab. And scrolling down, we can see the owner. So in this case, it's Bruce Fisher. Like I said, when Bruce logs in, he would be able to access the live designer and he would be able to start dragging and dropping widgets and managing this page. Just to touch on a couple things that they cannot do. So effectively, when someone owns a page, again, they can do most of the things that you would expect them to be able to do. They can use page stories, page news, download files, and photo albums and create all of those things. However, I'm going to drag this and drop this here. When they add stories for the page to the website, as a page owner only, I would not have access to add new stories from the library, or rather not new, but I can't grab stories that I'm not basically, I can't grab stories that already exist, and this is just to prevent them from defacing or modifying content that they should. They can still create new stories for their page, and an administrator or someone else can assign the stories that they want to be worked on to this page, but they can't assign their own stories, and that's to help protect that limited access user from, again, grabbing content and doing other things. So the same applies to things like homepage download files and photo albums. effectively, they can manage the content that they own or is part of their direct ownership, but anything that isn't under that direct ownership, they can't actually access. So again, it's great for custom pages. If a club member says, hey, no one's keeping this specific page up to date, we should really work on that. Offer to let them do that with the caveat that that's all you'll be able to do. You can work on that one page. So for the club context though, once someone is a level 60 member or better, so that's level 60, 50, 40, and 30, basically staff after the 50 threshold, they will have access to come in and modify most of the content in the Club Runner platform. For the district, this is the same from the website editor context. A website editor has access to manage most of the club settings, but they don't have access to manage the entire system. They'd be able to come in and create some stuff, but yeah. Page owners can be assigned by anyone who can access the page. So in a pinch here, Bruce technically could take his own ownership away and lock himself out. I know we'll be looking at improving that in the future. All right, so while we're on this page, talking about Bruce and the things that we can do and can't do, I am going to pivot to talking about social media and video embedding in the context of sharing content from third parties. This is a question that comes up to us very frequently about how do I embed stuff from things like YouTube? So I am going to be working with a custom page specific widget. I'm going to drag and drop it onto the page, and it's going to get me into the widget editor here as soon as, oh, no, it will leave me on the page. I do need to go to the full widget editor in this case because I am specifically working with advanced HTML and I need access to the source menu. There are some additional options to embed media that we'll take a look at quickly, but typically, or not typically, sometimes you might not have an option that matches. So the first example I have here is a rotary video. This is the rotary. Sorry about that, guys. This is the video from Rotary International. They published this on February 26, 2021. And you know what? I've decided that I really want this video on my page for whatever reason. And generally speaking, most videos that are on YouTube can be embedded into third-party websites. Third-party in this case, third-party to YouTube. So they can be embedded in Club Runner websites and really any website system that will allow you to add HTML to it, which Club Runner does. So we want to share this video. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the share option, and it's going to give me a list of options here. In this case, I want to embed the video. And I would prefer to enhance the privacy of our members, and we're just going to have it go right from the beginning. So you can see we have all of our embed code in here. I'm going to highlight it all. I'm going to click the copy button here. It has copied it to my clipboard. I am going to come back to our widget that we're working on. I'm going to switch to the source mode, and I'm going to paste the content that YouTube gave me directly into it. Now, right now it's showing an iframe, and an iframe is an inline frame. It loads content external to the current web page, and that's how most embedding works. Not all embedding, but most embedding. So we're going to title this Rotary Response. And the last little thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to try and center it. Oh, fantastic. That looked like that worked. So let's go ahead and save and publish this. Oh, I must have been navigating in an unwarranted fashion at some point. I probably hit the back button at some point that I shouldn't have. So let me go ahead and refresh the live designer. We can see that this is on the page now. I do need to publish this change. So if I didn't do anything yet and I just went to go look at this page that are on, you'll see that neither the story widget nor that video has been there. The reason why is we have not yet published the page. Typically speaking, anytime you add, remove, or change the location of a widget on the page, you will have to publish it to see those results. So we can go ahead and reload now, and we can see the Rotary Response video. It pops right up. If I click play on it, it'll immediately start. I'm going to go ahead and mute that so it doesn't keep piping through. But there's no reason you can't embed a video in a story or anywhere else on your website. Now, the one really specific catch about videos is to remember that video content embedded in this manner does not work in email clients. That isn't that it doesn't work with Club Runner in emails or anything else. It means it literally does not work. The emails are kind of stuck in the past about at least 15 years. And for security and privacy reasons, they don't fetch, in most cases, external content like videos to embed them into your emails. So if you ever have a video in one of the stories and you're sending that story out in your bulletin, just know that the video won't load. It'll actually be completely gone. In those cases where you do need to share the video with your bulletin subscribers for some reason, you would really want to create either a direct link to the video or have like a photo of the video, and then clicking on it takes them to the actual page, either embedded on your website or YouTube. But yeah, that's not a Club Runner limitation for videos and emails. That's just an email limitation. All right, so we did our rotary response video. Let's take a look at another frequent option here. We always get questions about individual clubs. This happens to be a video, and I think this is potentially the exact same video we were talking about. But if you guys ever want to embed specific posts from Facebook, when you are logged into Facebook, or even if you're not, as long as you can get to the content, there's usually this 3-dot button. And once again here, we can see that there is an embed option. So clicking on the embed option will give us the iframe. You know what, sure, let's include the full post with our share. We'll go ahead and copy the code. Once again, we'll return to the Club Runner tab. We will add another new widget here on the page. We will dive into that widget. Rotary response from Facebook. So once again, I am going to hit the source button. I'm going to drop my new code in. I'm going to turn the source mode off. I'm going to attempt to center it, and we have our iframe displayed. So let's go ahead and save and publish. So we save the contents of our widgets and we push it out to the page. And we have our rotary response from Facebook as well. So let's go ahead and publish once again. We will head back out to this page here. I'm going to refresh the page. And we now also have our Facebook post, effectively showing that, yes, if you guys have a really big post, you want to call more attention to it, and you want to just add that content to your own content going out of Club Runner, you absolutely can. Just remember, just like the YouTube embed, because this embed is coming from an iframe, it would also not be able to be supported in email. Typically speaking, anything that is an iframe embed won't be supported in email. That goes doubly true for JavaScript embeds. Occasionally, we do see JavaScript embeds too, where it's some script running on the page. That will absolutely not work in an email. So the next option that I want to talk about is our Facebook page plugin and general Facebook, like how you guys can work with that. And I believe it is under Bulletin and PR. So we have this nice Facebook page plugin. What this does is this is an actual duplication of the exact same features and functionality from Facebook itself. So really quickly, I'm just going to go over to Facebook page plugin. And you can see that this will send us right to the Facebook developers page. And what we have done is this page plugin feature has been basically built directly into Club Runner. So just returning here, we have our Facebook page plugin, which I believe should be this widget. I'm going to click on the properties to pop it up. We're going to call it Facebook plugin. Scrolling down the page, we need the Facebook URL. And in this case, we don't want facebook.com/Facebook, but we will use facebook.com/Rotary, which should be the Rotary International feed. From here, we have individual options like showing the timeline, showing events, showing messages, how high the plugin can be. So the minimum is 70 if you want to set that. I am going to set it to 250. Hopefully it'll let me do that. And there are a couple different options here to show and hide things. What's really nice is you can reuse this same plugin several times on a page, one as a way to like your club's or your organization's Facebook page itself, and another just to display messages. So let's go ahead. We've got facebook.com/Rotary. We've got our timeline options done. Let's go ahead and hit save. And we'll go ahead and publish this one more time. Switching to our Become a Member tab again, I'm going to reload our page. And we can see our Facebook page plugin is there. All we had to do is drag and drop it and choose some of the options. So the only difference between using our page plugin and the page plugin here is you would have to fill this page out, Rotary, tell it which tabs you want, and it makes you guess if you don't know what they are. You can set the width and the height, and you can change some of the options. So as you guys can see, we have quite literally replicated this same functionality. Of course, there's nothing stopping you from coming here and doing this. If you wanted to continue with this method, after you made all of your changes, you would click Get Code. Club Runner already includes the Facebook JavaScript SDK on our platform. That's how some of our Facebook integration features work. But we would need to come in here and grab this, copy it, return back to Club Runner, go into one of our widgets here, copy and paste the code, and then continue to modify it. The nice thing about using our built-in page plugin is all of the options are right here on the page for you, and it already does everything that it needs to. So just as an example, I'm going to turn off a whole bunch of these options here. I'm going to leave all of that empty. I'm going to use the small header and cover photo, and I'm going to hit save. Let's see, I am going to adjust the layout of the page just to be a little bit different here. I'm going to grab our Facebook page plugin and drop it here, and I'm going to leave those other two there. So let's publish this and let's take a look and see how our Facebook page plugin has been transformed. So now you can see that this is just a Facebook, this is just a plugin, and all it is quite literally showing is the organization logo, the name of the page, and the page itself. So if I had a Facebook account and I was logged into that Facebook account on this page, clicking like page would like the page. I'm not logged into Facebook on this account, so I can't continue. But just as a way to show you, you can get a lot of mileage out of the widget just based on it, based on the configuration. So not only do we have that Facebook plugin widget, let's do one other thing here. So I'm going to turn off the border. I'm going to turn off that. Let's not hide the cover photo. Let's go ahead and hit save. And if for some reason, like I wanted to have that set up there at the top, and then my secondary, I wanted a feed, I can add it a second time. Let's see, I'll go into my second widget here. I'm going to turn off the border. I'm going to turn off the title. We're going to put this to Rotary again. Rotary. And we will only show the timeline tab in this case. Let's go ahead and hit save. Scroll back up, publish because I added a new widget to the page. And when I reload here, you will see the Facebook page with just the like page up here, and then the one below with the full timeline. But we didn't show events or messaging Rotary or anything else like that, just to show off how you can have different configurations of this same widget, even repeating the same information, but have it in different places on the page and take advantage of it in different ways. So let's move right along to another advanced website content, which is third-party services and software. Occasionally, clubs and districts need to embed something that's external to Club Runner into their website to augment that functionality. One of the best examples that I have in this is our friends in Rotary District 5000. They have an absolutely fantastic website, but a custom Club Runner, a custom feature that they added just for their website using a third-party service is an option to reach out to them through a chat box. So they are using very specifically Zoho sales software to capture this, but this was embedded into their website through the same things I'm going to work with today. And also, speaking of some things I've already shown off today, you guys can hopefully see here, the Rotary District 5000 has used the People of Action campaign with their own local photos to get some really great carousels. So just kind of reinforcing that, that was a happy coincidence there. So definitely check out that people of action. But continuing with our advanced concept here, if we had something like this on our own, I'm going to use a context of Google Analytics, because that's something that you guys could go and search and find your own examples of and set up on your own. I will note we have a built-in integration with Google Analytics, so this is a little kind of just we wouldn't need to do this, but just to show off how that works. So I went into the website and then into the older website designer. And from here, I need to go into the settings. And the next option I'm going to do is use edit meta tags. So you can actually see that I have a Google Tag Manager already in here. I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of that for the time being. You can see that we have a couple meta tags already loaded into the page. And the reason we talk about the meta tag system is that right now the meta tag system is the best way to inject custom code onto your page. So for anyone who's maybe not particularly familiar specifically with the concept of meta tags or where I'm talking about, I'm going to go under the hood of the Club Runner page here. And under the hood here, we're looking at a big HTML document. So this might not be amazing for everybody, but when we're talking about meta tags, really what we're doing is we're talking about inserting text inside of the head tags of the HTML document. Anything that exists inside of the head tags is executed before the rest of the page loads, unless some additional technical things are set. So for example, you guys hopefully can see that we have a source here for some of our cookie consent, and we use an async process. I won't get into this too much, but effectively what that tells the browser to know is that when this page loads, we don't need this script to be loaded, or in this case, actually, we do want this script. That's what async means. It means loaded. But you guys can see up here, some of our other scripts say defer, and that means we're telling your browser, we don't need these right away, load them later. But the more important thing here is, because our meta tag system inserts any meta tag you want between the head tags, which is the topmost part of the document, it will add that to every page on Club Runner where the website is shown. So in our example from Google Analytics, I have a prepared sample, but typically you go in, you navigate to a specific part, and they'll give you your code. Returning to Club Runner, we would use the edit meta tag options. We will click add. As soon as the add page loads, we'll go ahead and drop our custom code in there. So we are not going to use a keyword. We are going to use custom. I have some JavaScript once again from Google, and I am going to paste it right into the page. We can see that it has all of our Google Analytics details. It has our window and target information and everything that would come over from Google Analytics. I'm going to add a quick little comment here just for the webinar. Another secret advanced thing that we won't normally be able to help you out with is this is an HTML comment. It prevents itself from showing, but it allows us to leave comments in line. Let's go ahead and save here. So we have now created this new meta tag. It will be displayed on every page of the website. So let's head out to the members area, or not to the members area, rather to the home page. And looking at the homepage, we can see nothing has changed. And you say, hey, didn't you just add that custom code? To which I say, yes, but it goes in the head of the document. So we can verify that our code has been loaded by looking for the comments that we left. So here's the Google tag, and coming down our last line here, hello, webinar viewers. So here is our custom meta tags that have been added. Now this content will execute on every single page of the platform where we have this information, allowing you to embed really any third-party service. So if any third-party service is coming to you, like you guys have chosen to use it, and you need its functionality to work, and they say, hey, it has to go into the head and it has to be there, go into the edit meta tags and add that custom code. Once you add it, it'll start firing on every page, and you can include tons of different things here. You can include external JavaScript resources, including external CSS resources, custom fonts. A reason why you might use the meta tags to handle custom CSS is it's not on your platform. For example, maybe you guys, as a comment about our under the hood stuff, we run on Bootstrap, Bootstrap 3.3, the series. So if someone had made a big customization for all the colors for Bootstrap, you could potentially go grab that, and if they already hosted it for you, link directly to that. That's a bit of an abstract thing to talk about because I don't have a good example for you here, but a great resource for at least getting started is W3 Schools. They've been around forever. The documentation is good enough to get started, but there are good things like learning CSS and HTML, and you would be able to incorporate those things externally here. The last section I want to talk about is our custom CSS. This is probably one of the least used features of the platform, and it is very much for advanced users. And so we have a couple different settings here. I will make a very clear statement. When you guys do upload the custom CSS, it is loaded just like the meta tags on every single page of the platform for your account. So if you upload wide-reaching CSS that is not very specifically targeted, it may have unintended consequences on external pages. I've got some really great examples for the CSS to show you guys some really basic things that you can modify. But once again, if you're not familiar with CSS and you need a bit of a refresher to get up to speed, W3 Schools and other resources out there are great for getting into CSS and how that can empower you to redesign the website. We also even have an option that goes so far as you can disable the themes for Club Runner. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Edit Settings. I am going to disable the themes, and I have now disabled all Club Runner theming. So I'm going to head back out to the home page, and I'm going to refresh it. And this is now what we get on the page. Obviously, this is not what most of you would want your website to look like. So if you ever choose that option to disable the Club Runner theme, you are quite literally starting from scratch. You will have to style every little last element on your own. I don't recommend it. I have seen some clubs take, I don't recommend it to most customers just because it is the extreme option. Most customers are probably going to want to add additional CSS that's complementary, that changes the way things are. And that's actually a big concept with CSS. CSS stands for cascading style sheets, as in, as your attributes and you continue to list them, they cascade down and inherit things. That's really it's really powerful because that means we can use that same CSS to override anything that Club Runner does, and our CSS files, in most cases, the ones that the club uploads, will be loaded last. Because they're loaded last, that typically means they'll override the majority of our settings. There may be cases where they don't, but let's go ahead and show you guys some really basic but far-reaching powerful CSS changes. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Add CSS File, and I'm going to choose my upload. And secretly here in my webinar demo picture folder, I also happen to have 3 nice little CSS files. So the first one I'm going to grab here is all red text. This all red text file is a very simple CSS file. It has one rule, and it basically says make all of the text on the website red. I'm going to go ahead and save. You can see nothing has happened in the administrative area, but returning to the home page and refreshing the page is probably going to have a bit of a disastrous result. You can see through that one very simple CSS file, not that you guys actually got a chance to see it. Let me open this so we can view the file. So this is how simple of the CSS file is. I put an asterisk. This means all elements, literally. Color red. Important means listen to my declaration above all else, unless there's another more important declaration further down the list. So that very bit and tiny bit of code has made quite literally our entire club website text red. I mean, I don't know why I would want this specifically for our current website, but just as a really far-reaching place, if you wanted to drastically rechange all of the content on the website, you could do that. Additionally, maybe you want all of the fonts on the website as one very specific font. I do have another prepared CSS file that we'll go ahead and make active, and we're going to change all of our fonts to Comic Sans. We'll go ahead and hit save. So now we have 2 CSS files active. Returning back to one of the pages on our website and refreshing, I don't know if it's super easy to see. At the very least, most of my content has now taken on Comic Sans, not all of it. And the reason in this case is I do not believe I added that important declaration. So no, I said for all elements, set the font family to any of these 3, Comic Sans first, Comic Sans MS followed by Comic Sans, and then this is a CSS declaration that basically says pick the best handwritten font you have if neither and none of these options are available to you. And so you can see that again, most of the website changed. The reason why some of the website did not change is because these fonts on the page here already have declarations about how they're supposed to be and the font size they're supposed to be in, or the font family rather. So right here, I have my mouse over it. I don't know if you'll be able to see that all that well. Let me see if I can click in. There is a font family declaration here. I know that's really small on your guys' end, but because this is listed quite literally at the style element on the HTML, my CSS is not specific enough to override it. It is being overridden by another color in the option or at the individual level. Or rather, the color is coming through, but we can see that this font family has overridden it because it is the element style. If it wasn't in the element style, it would immediately fix that. If we really absolutely needed that font family to come through, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck. Where did the font family go? There it is, font family. You can see this font family option is no longer edited out or let's see, important. And now that we've set it to important, even if I go re-enable that previous thing, it won't matter because I've said it's important in that declaration. Important is something that you shouldn't use very often, but you can, and it overrides everything else all the way down. Our last one that we're going to add is a font change. Now, while each of my CSS files have been very small one-line changes, in most cases, your CSS file may have hundreds of rules or even thousands in some cases, and that's fine. The browser can load it and handle it without any problems. I just have one individual file for each one to really make sure that it's easy for us to see and know which ones do which. So my final one here was to set all the fonts on the page everywhere, at least where they weren't important or they weren't already overridden as important, to be big. I just set a generic big size. And you can see that all of the content on our page here has changed. Now, while all of the CSS changes I did here were far-reaching, very intentional big changes, you can do a lot of different things. You could set just one specific element on a page's text. You can modify, I guess, just to say CSS is pretty expansive. It's not unlimited, but there's a lot of things it can do and do very well. And using our custom CSS can do a lot of really great things. So a question that comes up with our clubs, or not clubs, but some of our customers somewhat frequently is, how do I set the default font for the website when I'm working in the editor for our website? In most cases, we tell people they don't need to because the font is going to be defined by the actual styling on the page, and we tell people not to set the font. By not setting a specific font when you are working in your content, it allows the CSS changes that you're making to come through and have an impact on your content. So we can see that I still have my, I have my big font. So let's turn off big fonts. I want to turn back on Comic Sans. Sorry about that, guys. Returning out to the page here. Once again, we can see Comic Sans has been set everywhere, right? But in this very specific story that is here on the page, they went out of the way to set the font as a very specific font family, and that is overriding our choices. This is typically why when customers do come to us and say, hey, I want to set a custom font for the website, We tell them there is already one set, but if you do want to set it, you can set it through Custom Css. It won't show up in the editor as the default font, but as long as you don't customize that aspect of the font, it will inherit and display exactly as you expect it to. So again, you can see just on that one change from that one CSS file, almost all the fonts on the entire website, again, with the exception of specific cases, is now showing in Comic Sans. I hope all of the advanced webinar items that we went over today were really educational. I hope you guys were able to keep up and follow along. I see that we've had a bunch of chat and Q&A ongoing for most of the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it back over to Mickey to let him take care of any of those individual Qs and the As for them.
Thank you, Zach. That was great. And so we got a lot of chat and Q&A. What I'm going to do is I did choose some questions to answer live. So, and I've been actually trying to, there were some, because this is an advanced webinar, we had some advanced level questions. So I was actually trying to do a bit of research during the webinar. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and let's get my screen up. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen. Okay, so what I want to do is kind of work through some of the questions we had in the Q&A. One of the questions was how many pixels should an image be for a carousel? And now this is just I didn't want to do anything fancy. This is just in my Mac notepad because I just want to kind of make some notes, and I'm going to leave it up on the screen for you to read. I'm repeating a slight bit of what Zach was saying. So as Zach mentioned, one of the hardest things with image carousels is preparing or prepping your images. You can get a bunch of disparate images, you know, like he was saying, a wide and a tall and a phone, you know, phone image and a height. Like you can get all kinds of images and put them together. They won't look the best. The one way to make your carousel look good is to set all images to a specific size. So a specific height, 1000 pixels tall by 300 pixels wide is an example. I said that really fast because I don't want you to now go and resize all your images to 1000 by 300. I just mean if you want to make all your images a specific size, let's say 1000 by 500 or what have you, that's great, because if all your images are the same size, they won't shift up or down or have white space or any of that stuff. Saying that, if you're using a full width carousel, so what I mean is it's a carousel at the top, it's going to show up at the top of your screen, it's going to be full width. Here's a dimension. Oh, I didn't put in pixels. So 1920 pixels tall by 400 pixels wide. I'm sorry, I got that reversed. Sorry. 1920 wide by 400 tall. Okay. So, and I got this reversed too. I'm very sorry about that. So this should be wide and this should be tall. I'm glad I'm writing this out so you can kind of see the mistakes that I'm correcting on the fly here. Okay, I want to just mention this. There's no this is a recommended size. There's no required size. Your pictures don't have to be a certain height and width. We'll take whatever you give us, and we'll try to give you the best looking carousel that we can. Like I said, it's more difficult when all the images, like here's a tall image next to a wide image next to a tall image, like it makes things more challenging. So I want to spend just an extra bit of time on this because it's worth talking over all the image stuff. The image implications can get a little challenging. I used to be a graphic designer in my former life before Club Runner. It can get relatively complicated. So the simple thing is just some rules of thumb. Get some nice looking high res images. If someone gives you an image and it's like web quality, what I mean is it's like a 400 by 400 pixel little square, you know, like it's a low resolution image. That's not necessarily bad. It's not going to look good full width, right? If you want something that's the top of your screen, you want to make it look really nice. 1920 pixels wide is the width of an HD monitor. I'm on an HD monitor. You might be too. Now, there's fancier monitors. We have a lot of people. They're stepping up to 4K and all kinds of resolutions. I'm just going to stick with. I asked our lead developer, and I think a very, very large portion, well over 2/3 of our Club Runner users have an HD monitor. So if you use this, 1009, another way to say 1920 is to just say 2000. It might be a bit easier, right, than trying to memorize 1920. If you can stick with around 2000 pixels wide, you're covering the gamut of pretty much most of our Club Runner users, right? Of course, there's some people with higher resolutions. 4K is actually 4000 pixels wide, but if you stick to around this width, you should be pretty good. And like I said, I wish I could just give you an answer. Oh, they have to be 1000 pixels or 2000 pixels wide, and that's it. It's kind of a rule of thumb. I don't want to say that you have to have 2000 pixels wide. I'm just saying that, actually, I'll go back to 1920 because that's technically the correct size. It helps to have nice high quality images. Okay, so that's, I hope I answered that a little bit. I just want to get into some of the intricacies. I don't want to get too deep. We can just keep going and going, especially with the image stuff. Okay, so, and by the way, this is another question from Carrie. She has some great questions today. So Carrie asked, I upload some photos into Club Runner. They come in sideways. And you know what? Sometimes, like whether you're on Windows or Mac, sometimes it looks fine in my Windows or Mac computer, but it comes in sideways. Am I doing something wrong? You know, what's happening? So I want to, let's see if I can show my phone. This is my phone. Most of you have a phone. When you take a photo with a phone, you can hold it pretty much any way you want. That isn't such a big deal. Like this is tall. This is called portrait mode. This is wide, right? This is called landscape mode. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but what happens sometimes, and it doesn't happen all the time, but what happens sometimes, our Club Runner image readers, it can't read what's called the metadata properly. In other words, there's information embedded in every image you take or your husband, wife, anybody takes, and that image properties, sometimes we can't read it correctly. We are working on this. We're working on a better solution to read the metadata better. But sometimes what will happen is the image will come in sideways and you're like, but that looks okay in Windows or on my Mac. Let's talk about that. Now, what I had to do is I had to actually go find an image. So this is an image that is actually sideways. I actually had to go look through and try and find something. So I'm cheating a little bit. I'm showing you an image that is sideways. Now, sometimes what happens is this actually comes in the correct way, but it still comes in sideways. I'm gonna upload this image into Club Runner. So I'm gonna go into Club Runner, and I'm just gonna go to, you know what? I'll go to my website designer, and actually let's actually go here. Let me go to my. I'm going to click on New Website Beta and click on Homepage Designer. Okay, and let's just go here. I'll go edit a story. Let's just actually insert an image as you normally would. So I'm going to click here on Webinar Story. Okay, and let's put the image. I don't know. I'll put it here. It doesn't really matter. So I'll hit Enter twice. Let's insert an image. So I'm going to click Image, and I'm going to click Browse Server right here. This is going to open up our image library. Okay, I'll make this a bit bigger. I know it's a little bit hard to see. I'll make it a touch bigger. I'm here in my images. Actually, what I'll do is I'll click Upload. Okay, and I'll go to my Downloads folder. And there's my image. Now I'm going to select it. So I'm going to click Open, and it's going to come in sideways. And I'll actually bring it into the story sideways so you can see, right? And it's going to be pretty big. Sorry, I know it's, anyways, I just wanted to show you the test that this is actually a sideways image. So let me get rid of that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. There's two broad ways to correct this, okay? For now, for the time being, you can't correct the sideways image in Club Runner yet. That once again, we're kind of working on a way to read the metadata better. So here's method number one, which is I'm going to go back to my computer. Now I'm on a Mac, and I know that kind of cuts off a lot of Windows users. The concepts are more or less the same. Whether you're on Windows or whether you're on a Mac, each regular standard computer, whether it be Windows or Mac, has a built-in image editor. On Windows, the built-in image editor is called Microsoft Paint. It's a pretty standard, though it's a basic editor, but it's free. It's already on your Windows computer. On a Mac, the image editor is called Preview. This is on every Mac. This is on every Windows. Whether you've ever opened it or not, you have Paint for Windows or Preview for Mac. I'm going to open this image in my Mac program, Preview. This is not Photoshop or anything I have to purchase, anything fancy like that. Okay, it's on my second screen. I'll bring it in here, okay? And you can see that it's sideways. So this is method number one, which is you can rotate in your program of choice, whether it be Microsoft Paint on a Windows or Preview on a Mac. If you have Photoshop, even better, but a lot of people don't have Photoshop, so I'm not going to talk about it. So I'm in the standard free image editor on a Mac, and I'm just going to go Tools, and I'm going to rotate, and I believe it's rotate. Whoops, I did it the wrong way. I'll undo that. And it's rotate the other way. It's rotate right. Okay, so I rotated it. I'm going to go File. You can go Save. I'm actually just going to save it as, because I want to show you a different way. I don't want to lose my image. So I'm going to call this 1-1. Okay, so you can see that it's a different image. Okay, so this is my image rotated to look correct. So I still have my old image, and if I go up, this is the correct image. So that's method number one, which is just using your computer, standard Windows, standard Mac, no fancy tools needed. If you have Photoshop, fantastic, use that because it's great. But like I said, Photoshop is a paid option. I'm going to give you another option. So that's method one, is use the image editor of your choice, whether it be Paint or Preview. Another option, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here on this tab, and I made this a little bigger. I know it's very hard to see. What I'm going to do is let me paste this into the chat. Oops, sorry, so that everyone can see this. So this is a URL, and it's, first of all, what this is a free online resource. You can edit batches of images. You can flip them all or do whatever. As instead of one at a time, you could do, say, 25 at a time. And you can export out your images and upload them that way. So if you've got one image coming in sideways, that's relatively simple. Let's say you've got 20 images coming in sideways. You can use this online tool. I'm going to put it into the chat right now. Okay. And then I'm going to show you what the URL is. It's this URL right here. Okay. This is a free online tool. The reason I'm using this online tool, you don't have to install anything. It's not for Windows or Mac. It runs inside your web browser. So you don't have to install a program or worry about viruses so much, because it just runs inside the web browser, right? Chrome or Firefox or whatever you want to use. And it'll let you it'll let you change images as batches. So you can rotate several images at once. Now, sometimes what will happen is you'll open an image. Let's go back to my images. Okay. And it will come in the correct way. It'll look like this in Windows or Mac, but then you upload into Club Runner and it'll still come in sideways. If that's the case, open it in Microsoft Paint or in Preview and just click Save. You don't have to change anything or rotate like I did. When you click Save, it kind of relocks in the metadata, if that makes sense. And it will kind of lock in the metadata, and it should work like that too. We get a lot of users saying, it's coming in sideways. Sometimes we ask them, can I see the picture? All I do is just save it in Paint or Preview, and that usually does the trick. Once again, this is tricky. It's a little bit more challenging, but that's what this webinar is all about. We're not doing the basic stuff today, but I want to talk about one more thing. Okay. And I'll try to make this brief. A lot of users, they already know. In fact, you might already know this. You upload something into private documents, right? You can choose the option requires login, meaning you have to be a logged in user in order to view a private document. And we'll call that, I guess we'll call it basic or the beginner. Now that we're into advanced, let's go a little fancier. Okay, fine, I can have a document, it's required login. What about protecting it from members of my own club? Because we do get this question. I want this to be shown to board members or my president and secretary or who, 1, 2, 3, 4, whoever, but I don't want the general public, I don't want the general Rotary Club membership to access it. So here's what you can do. This is a document for private eyes. I'm not sure what to say here. And I will make this bigger so you can read it, okay? So how about for executive eyes, private sense? So yeah, that's better. For executive eyes only. Okay, so this is just for executives. What you can do is you can restrict the permissions. So what I can actually do is I'm going to go to File and oops, I'm sorry, I hope it's Properties. Nope, sorry, I should have prepared this a little better. And it is, boy, this is a great. I'm going to go to Page Setup. Now, once again, I'm on a Mac, and I know a lot of you are on Windows, but you can, oh, it's under Tools. I'm really sorry about this. I'm showing you this on a Mac. It'll be a little different in Windows. I'm showing you this because it works and because it's a good way to essentially password protect a Word. It also works in in Microsoft Excel. I'm going to go to Tools. I'm going to go to Protect Document. In Windows, it's not this way. It's a little bit different, but like I said, I'm on a Mac. I'm going to protect the document and I'm going to type in a password, okay? And then I'm going to retype the password. It says, what was the password again? I'm going to retype it, okay? And you can set a password to open. You can also set a different password to modify. I'm not going to do that. But essentially what you're doing is I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to save this. So I'm going to go File and Save, okay? And I'm just going to call this my test document, okay? I'm going to just save it here. So here's what I did, and I hope you're following along, and I hope it kind of made sense. So I'm going to close this, and let's see if I did this right. So let's say this has information pertaining to the club, and I don't want the general membership to view it because I don't just want my execs to view it. So I'm going to close this document, okay? And I'll go back here. Here's my test document. Now you can see that right away that there's a little lock icon. Like I said, Windows might be a little different, but the concept is exactly the same. Let me open this plain Jane Word document. I'm going to double click. And what Word says is, you want to look at this document, what's the password? Give me the password or you can't open this document. So I must type in the password. If I do it wrong, then it won't let me in. So if I type in the password, I can view the document. So what you can do is you can take, I'm going to close this Word file again. Okay, you can take this Word document, you can upload it into documents. You can even technically upload it to homepage download files, although if it's sensitive information, 100% of the time, all sensitive information belongs in private documents and must have that requires login setting. So we're taking an extra step. Not only can we upload this into private documents, we can set the setting to requires login. We can also password protect this individual Word file and then give the password to, say, I don't know, your board members, your president, your district governor, what have you. It's an extra layer of security for a document you don't want to show to your regular club members. I hope that made sense. I'm sorry I was kind of fumbling around in Word there. But I am going to, let me just see here. Oh, okay. Become, all right. So what I am going to do, and we went over time, I guess I'm a little bit okay with that. We really, all this stuff is really important. We're really excited about this training series. And for these kind of deep dive advanced sessions, we get to cover what we almost never really get to cover because, as Zach mentioned, some of this stuff is third party. We don't normally talk about Microsoft Word or CSS or some of the things that we covered today. So I just want to thank all of you for staying with us. for hanging in there. I'm going to conclude by what I would like to do is, oh, let me just, let me see if this will load. And there we go. I just want to go over a few points. Any questions at all, if big, small, doesn't matter, please email us, support@clubrunner.ca. We love fielding questions from a board member, executive, regular member. It doesn't matter if they're in the club. Every club member is entitled to Club Runner support. Please do email us if you have any questions at all. If you haven't seen clubrunnercommunity.com, this is our online message board. You can get in touch with Club Runner users from all over the world, Australia and Sweden, Italy, and so forth. So you can ask a question and have it answered by someone, I don't know, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, or Alaska. So please do go to clubrunnercommunity.com, use your club or district login name and password to actually be able to log in and have the ability to post. And it's a private posting service. So if you post something, the only people who can reply to you are other Club Runner users around the world. And then finally, please do check out our Club Runner mobile app. You may already know about it, but just in case, the Club Runner mobile app is free for iPhone or Android. You've very likely got a phone anyways that you're carrying around with you wherever you go. Why not have all access to all your to a lot of your club information on the go? So if you haven't already, please try clubrunner.com mobile. It's our info page about the mobile app. Any member can download it. And like I said, it's free. I really do hope you give it a try. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I guess I will conclude. We'll end it there. We're slightly sorry we went long, but we're not that sorry. We're really glad we could cover some of this advanced topics with you today. I hope all of you have a wonderful day, and take care, everyone.